तस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरो श्रीयुतपदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगणरघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं श्रीकृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधाकृष्णपादान् सहगणललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च। हे कृष्णा करुणा सिन्धो दीनबन्धो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका कान्त राधाकान्त नमोऽस्तुते। तप्तकाञ्चन गौराङ्गी राधे वृन्दावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। नमो महावदान्याय कृष्णप्रेमप्रदायिने कृष्णाय कृष्णचैतन्य नामिने गौरत्विषे नमः। पञ्चतत्त्वात्मकं कृष्णं भक्तरूपस्वरूपकं भक्तावतारं भक्ताख्यं नमामि भक्तशक्तिकम्। श्रीकृष्णचैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासदि गौरभक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। जन्माद्यस्य तन्मयादितरतश्चार्थे सुभिज्ञस्वराट् तेने ब्रह्महृदायादिकवये मुह्यन्ति यत्सूरयः। तेजो वारिमृदां यथा विनिमयो यत्र त्रिसर्गो मृषा धाम्ना स्वेन सदा निरस्तकुहकं सत्यं परं धीमहि। नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत्। Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, 3rd Canto, chapter 28, verse number 34. Teachings of Lord Kapila to his mother Devahuti. He is explaining the process of meditation. With a mixture of bhakti, and he gave whole description how a yogi should meditate. So in the last verse we read, we were reading this verse number 34, he described a particular type of yogi who, although attains bhava platform and sees the Lord within the heart, but then he takes away his mind from the Lord and makes the mind empty. So he was described like a fisherman who uses a hook to catch fish. So his interest is in the fish and hook is only means. So like that his heart is compared to a hook, which is very dry, juiceless, bent, harsh and cruel because it catches a live fish. So like that the heart of a yogi is also very cruel and without any feelings of love or devotion. That's why he is able to do that. So Kapila has said, Evam harau bhagavati pratilabdha bhavo bhaktya dravad hridayat pulakah pramodat Autkantha baspa kalaya murardemanas tacchapi chitta vadisham shanikay bhinte. So in this way, And in this way means by following the process which was described in the previous verses, he attains bhava, pratilabdha bhava. Bhava is a platform of bhakti where mind becomes completely fixed without any distractions. So it is a state of consciousness. But as we read, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, he commented that this word pratilabdha bhava, prati means that it is pratikul. It is not a favorable bhava. And it is very surprising that somebody can attain the vision of the Lord not being favorable. So we are expected to have anukul bhava, not pratikul. But here it is pratilabdha bhava. And bhaktya dravada hridaya. And of course without bhakti, without devotion, it is not possible. So the meaning is that, because one may think that how is that he is performing devotion and it is not favorable. But he is performing devotion only with the intention of attaining self-realization, not performing devotion for the sake of devotion. So that's why his bhava is pratilabdha bhava. But he has performed his sadhana very tenaciously, very fixed, and performing this process of bhakti. So then his heart melts, he has symptoms, sattvic bhavas. There are different symptoms when you have bhava, they manifest in the body. And because of happiness, he has this atkantha baspa kalaya. He has tears and muhurardamana. Again and again he is overpowered by these feelings. But slowly he pulls back his body. Tatchatu chitta bhakti sankair viyunkte. So he disjoints. Because according to him, yoga means chitta vritti nirodha. And there are no more vrittis. There is no experience of anything in the mind of any specific object. And what remains, that is called self-realization. Because only the seer remains and there is nothing to be seen. So we have read this commentary and then little bit was remaining. So in the last part we read that a devotee is unable to give up the feet of the Lord. It's not possible for him. And we read some verses, now he is quoting from Uddhava. Uddhavena cha tantvakilatmadayite swaramashritanam sarvarthadam sakritividu visvijayata konam. So he says that who is that person who is able to give up the feet of the Lord, which satisfy all desires, and akhil atma dayiteshwaram ashritanam, which ashritanam sarvarthadam, which supplies all the desires of those who have taken shelter. And then Naradena cha smaran mukundam gripa guhanam punarvihatum ichetna rasagrahojana. Says that while meditating on the feet of the Lord, mukundam gripa guhanam, then guhanam means as if he is embracing them. And punarvihatum ichetna rasagrahojana. A person who has knowledge of rasa, then he does not desire to give them up. Because give them up for what reason? You give up if you think that there is something superior. At least you have to have a concept of something superior, whether something superior exists or not. So yogi thinks that self-realization or Brahman realization is superior to the personal vision of the Lord. And that's why he shifts his thought from the Lord and makes his mind blank. A devotee does not think like that. So therefore he does not want to give up. रसग्रह इत्यनेन योगिषु अपि मध्ये सुख प्रवृत्तय एव अभिनंदिता. So in this verse spoken by Narada, the word rasgraha describes a yogi who is having interest or liking for devotion. So he says, among the yogis also, only yogis like Shukdev, they are glorified because they don't give up the vision of the Lord, rather they are happy that they have given up the Brahman platform. अत्रैव पूर्व श्लोके भक्त्या आर्द्रे अर्पित मनान पृथक दिदृक्षयते इति अर्पित मना इति भगवते मनः समर्प्य तस्मिन् मनसि स्वत्वाभावात् कथं तस्मात् तद्वियोजयेत् कथं वा दत्तापहारी भवेत् इति तथात्वे निंदा दुर्निवारणीय. So he says that in the previous sloka also we read that his bhaktya ardya arpit mana, that his mind which has melted out of devotion, he offers it to the Lord, and then he does not desire to think of anything else. So he says that once he has offered the mind to the Lord, then this mind does not belong to him anymore. If you offer something to another person, then you don't have the ownership on that. And therefore, really speaking, he is not morally qualified to take away the mind now after giving it to the Lord. So this is called a sinful act called dattapahari. That you give something to somebody and then you snatch it back. So that's why I say that it is not possible not to criticize this yogi. Why is he criticizing him? He looks like he is such a great person because he has attained such a high state of mind that he is seeing the Lord directly in his heart. And then the commentator is criticizing him. He was calling him as stupid, less intelligent. So why is that? So now he is giving a reason for that. And the reason is that this person is immoral, unethical, that he gives donation to somebody and then he takes it back. So that's why he says that it is durniva. Criticism is inevitable. Bhagwan api bhaktanam eva hridhi tishtet na yogina. So therefore he says that Lord also is such that he remains situated only in the heart of the yogis. In the heart of devotees and not of the yogis. So he is happy only with the devotees. So naham tisthami vakunthe yogi nam hridesova nitra gayanti madbhakta tatra tisthami vakunthe. So Lord says that I am with my devotees who are glorifying me, and not with the yogis. Because this is also my human psychology, that you like to be with people who like you. Nobody likes to stay in a place where he is always criticized or ignored. But you like to be with people who are affectionate towards you. So this is the only weakness of the Lord. Otherwise he is Supreme Controller. he becomes influenced by those people who love him. Then he forgets his lordship. He even completely becomes ignorant that he is Bhagavan. Usually we think that ignorance is only the living entity, but God also becomes ignorant because of love. So then he forgets, he becomes covered by the power of love of his devotees. So that's why when Durvasa Rishi, he was running around being chased by Sudarshan Chakra, and he went everywhere, nobody was able to help him. And finally he went to Lord Vishnu because Chakra belonged to him. So Lord Vishnu also refused to help him. He said that I cannot help you because I am under the control of my devotee. Nahamatmanam ashasu. It says I do not even desire myself without my devotees. Not to speak of anything else. Because your own self is most dear to you. There is nothing more dear than you yourself. So he says, I don't care for it. I am only totally controlled by my devotees. Satpati Satastriyam Yatha, just as a chaste wife controls a husband. Like that I become controlled by my devotees. And except for my devotees, I know nothing. Madanyateva janati naham tebhyo managati. They don't know anything else but me, and I know nothing but them. So he refused. Usually Lord is called Sharno Sharanyam, that he is the person who is worthy to be taken shelter of. And he is considered a person who protects those who surrender to him. There is a statement spoken by Lord Ramachandra that if someone comes to me and says that I am yours, tavasmi iti, then I give him all protection. And we saw in his pastime that Vibhishan, who was brother of Ravana, who was enemy of Lord Ramachandra and has kidnapped the wife of Lord Ramachandra. When the battle was going on between Lord Rama and Ravana, then Vibhishan came and surrendered to the Lord, and everybody was against it. When Vibhishan came, because they were camping outside Sri Lanka on the bank of the ocean, so he came to the camp and this news was brought to Lord Ramachandra, and then he appeared there and he said that I want to take your shelter. And everybody advised him not to accept him. Sugriv, Jambavati, all this. They said that he is coming from the enemy, he must be a spy. And if you give him shelter, then he will be destroyed because he will give all the news to his brother. Blood is thicker than water. So how is it possible that he is giving up his brother at such a crucial moment and coming and taking shelter of you? That's why he is called Vibhishan. Vibhishan means the terrible one. Because he is doing such a terrible thing that he is leaving his brother and joining the enemy. And that also at a moment when he is needed by his brother. So he is revolting against his brother, and in such a situation, how do we know that he is really sincere? So then Lord Ramachandra, he looked towards Hanuman, who was sitting quietly, and he asked him that what is your opinion? Because they were consulting. It's not that he is just making his own decisions. So Hanuman said that, no Lord, you give him protection. And then Ram said, yes, I completely agree with you, because anyone, even if my enemy comes to me and says I am yours, I will give him So he is called Saranagat Palaka, protector of one who takes shelter. So such a person, and then this yogi is giving him up. So that's why I say that Lord is only with devotees. He does not give up his devotees because they have love for him. Even if they have some other motive or some have material desires, still he likes them. In Gita also he says that they are all udar. He says there are 4 types of people who worship me. Artha Jigyasu, Artha Jnani, Vartasu. And later on he says that they are sarve ite udara. They are all generous. Even if one approaches him with a desire to gain something, still he accepts that. But this person, he is approaching him to give him up. So that for that reason he is criticized, especially attaining such a high platform that he was manifesting bhava. So therefore he says that Ninda Nirvara eva and Bhagavan api bhakta nam eva hridayatashtet. Therefore Lord is situated only in the heart of his devotees, not yogis, unless yogi is a devotee. But if yogi is not a devotee, then he is not obliged to be there. And he is supreme, that's how he is Ishvara. Yaduktam Brahmana, as Brahma said, Ye tu tvadiya charanambuj kosha gandham jigranti karna vivrahi shrutivata Bhaktya grihita charana paryacha tesham na paishinat hridayam buddhatva punsham. Those people who are smelling the fragrance of your lotus feet, which is brought by the wind through the ears, which means that those who are tasting the nectar of hearing your glories through their ear, Shruti Vatamata, the wind or air in the form of the Vedas. So Vedas are carrying the fragrance from the feet of the Lord, because they are describing the Lord. So those who are smelling this fragrance through the ears, you usually smell fragrance with the nose, but here this is Viprit Alankar. You don't smell anything with the ears. So they smell the fragrance through the ears, and fragrance is the characteristic of earth. Fragrance is not the quality of water, air or fire. Whenever there is fragrance, it is because of the earth. So this fragrance is brought from the Charnambuja Kosh, from the lotus feet of the Lord, by the air. Air carries the fragrance and they smell it through the ears. Bhaktya grihita charana pariyachatesham. And they have captured the feet of the Lord by pure devotion, pariya bhaktya. Tesham na pasi nata hridayam puruhat. So Brahma says that, O Lord, you never abandon the heart of your devotees. You take your seat there permanently. So this is the power of bhakti. And then he quotes one more verse. Avirhotrena cha. Avirhotra is one of the Navyogendras. He is speaking to King Ning. He says, Visrijati hridayam nayasya sakshad hariravshabhito diyaganghanasha pranaya rasnaya dhritangri padma Bhagavati Bhagavata Pradhanutta. So King Nimi has asked who is the supreme devotee of the Lord. He says that supreme devotee is that whose heart Lord does not leave. Visrijati hridayam yasya sakshadhari avashadhitopi amoganas. And what is the character of Lord Hari? That if you chant his name, even in a helpless situation, then he destroys all the sins. Aga nasha. Aga means big waves of aga, sins, and he destroys. Why he cannot leave the heart of his devotee? It says pranaya rasnaya dhritangri pranaya. Says that his one foot is tied to the heart of the devotee by the rope of love. So he makes an effort, even if he makes an effort by the other foot, and this foot is stuck here. So he cannot leave. He does not desire to leave, but even if he wants, then he cannot leave. So if you tie like a calf leg with a rope, then he can make an effort with the other three legs, cannot go anywhere. So pranaya rasnaya, but this rope is a very beautiful rope. Usually nobody likes bondage. Bondage is disliked by people. But this is the only bondage which people like. There are various types of bondages. But there is one type of bondage which people like, and that is the bondage of love. Pranaya rasnaya dhritangri pranaya. So he says, such a person whose heart Lord does not leave, he is the topmost devotee. Not that devotee is not leaving the feet of the Lord. Previously he was saying that devotee does not leave the feet of the Lord. In the last two verses, he has explained that Lord does not leave. So it is actually mutual. Not one way, not only the devotee is interested and Lord is actually bored and is thinking, when will I get rid of this guy? He's just pestering me. No, he is happy. He also does not want to leave. In 11th Canto, Krishna says that I walk behind my devotees wherever they go. And when I am walking behind them, then there is some dust. In India, he was talking about India. In the West, you don't see dust. So when they walk, and this dust which goes up, and he says this dust falls on my head, and I become purified by that. And that's why I am pure. Because I am always walking behind the devotees and getting the dust from their feet. So this yogi is a very special one, that he is able to perform this feat of leaving, or actually kicking out the Lord from his heart. Practically speaking, he is throwing him out. So then what happens after that? That is being described in the next verse. Muktashrayam yarhi nirvishayam viraktam nirvanam vichati manah sahasa yatharchihi atmanamatra purusho vyavadhanamekam anvikshate pratinivritta gunapravaha. So now he says that yogi who has now pulled away his mind from the Lord, he becomes nirvishaya. Now there is nothing in the mind. Mind has become blank. So mind is always making vrittis. It is always undergoing change according to the object in which it comes into contact through the senses. So that change of the mind, the shape which mind takes, when our mind is getting any sensation through the senses from outside, or if it is getting the sensations from within, then mind is always undergoing modifications which are called vrittis. In this state of mind, it's always changing. If you are looking at one object, then you look at another one, look at another one, then your mind state will always change, because you are getting knowledge of different objects. So now yogi, he was fixed on the Lord, that is the state of samadhi, and there is only one vritti, that is savikalpak samadhi. And now he has pulled away his mind back. So usually we will think that his mind now will make vritti of material objects, but he has already given up all interest in material objects, and he replaced all material vrittis by the vritti of the Lord. Means his mind became Bhagavadakar, it took the shape of the Lord. But now he removed it. So what will happen now? So when mind does not have anything else, then the soul becomes situated in its own swarupa, tadadrashtu swarupa avasthana. Otherwise, soul is always reflected in the chitta or in the mind, and is identifying with these vrittis of the mind. So now there is nothing to identify with it. So then it looks at itself. Otherwise, mind, the consciousness is always going out. And wherever our awareness is, that's where we are. So in Bhagavatam it is described mukti hitva anitha rupam swarupena vivastiti. Liberation means giving up all other rupas, forms, and becoming situated in swarupa. So really speaking, we are always situated in swarupa. There is no other way. We cannot be situated in anything else. But because we are seeing external forms, so we are situated in those forms by our awareness. But when there is nothing to see, hear, smell, taste, any of these things, then soul becomes self-aware. So this is the process of self-realization. Then drashta becomes situated in its own swarupa, tadadrashtu swarupa avasthana, in itself. Now for the first time it sees itself and knows itself. So this is muktashraya. Now there is no ashraya for it, and viraktam is totally renounced, no attachment to anything else. He has actually even given up attachment for the Lord. So nirvanam richati mana sahasayata. So when the mind goes into nirvana, blank state, yatha archi, just like a lamp. The lamp is burning, and there is oil in it. When the oil is finished, so what happens? It is extinguished. That is the meaning of nirvana. Nirvana means getting extinguished. Atmana matra purusho avyavadhanam ekam anivikshate. So now he sees himself without any obstruction, because there is nothing to obstruct him. He is only one, ekam, and constantly sees itself. Ekam anivikshate. Why is that? Why he is only seeing himself? What about the external world? Why he does not see that? It says pratinivritta guna pravaha. Because the flow of the guna has ceased, which means that there are no more sensations coming to the mind from external world or any thoughts from within. Everything is switched off. Program is over. So you have a screen of your television. You turn the television on, something is coming all the time. Some program is coming, you are hooked onto some channel, and it's all the time the images are changing. Then you disturb it and move it off from some channel. It is not tuned to any channel, then the screen becomes like rain is coming. So that is like seeing the Lord. And finally you turn it off. So now the screen is as it is. Now for the first time you can see the screen. Otherwise you never see the screen, you are only seeing something on the screen. So that is called nirvana. So he has turned off everything and he is now seeing itself. Atmana matra purusho avyavadhanam ekam anvikshata. So of course the statement looks little bit faulty from grammar point of view, because how can you see yourself? According to grammar, the subject and object are always different. If you see something, then that something is not you. The seer and seen are separate. If I am seeing something, I am not that thing. This is the principle. So karta and karma, subject and the object are not one. But in this particular state they are one. It says that the Purusha is seeing himself. Atmana matra purusho avyavadhanam ekam anvikshata. So I'm seeing what? What is he seeing? There is nothing. He is not seeing anything. It's like when television is switched off, what do you see? Nothing to see there. So like that he has a blank screen now. The mind is blank, there is nothing to see, and that not seeing anything is called seeing yourself. Means now he is just aware of himself, that I exist, that's all. He is not aware of anything externally, internally, but aware only of himself, herself, itself, whatever you want to call it. Because he has no gender. He is neither a male nor a female, nor in between, nor a combination. So, really speaking, there is no pronoun which can be used for it. So usually we use the neutral gender. Otherwise people will fight. So if we use masculine gender, then females will fight. If we use feminine gender, then males will fight. So that will make neutral. Nobody is bothered about that. But actually it is nothing. It is genderless. It does not have a neutral gender. So seeing here is not that he is actually seeing, just a word being used, he is just aware. There are no eyes to see. The soul does not have eyes to see, it does not have ears to hear, there is nothing there. So this is the state of self-realization. If you have any interest in it, to me it does not look very attractive. Working so hard, finally just turn on the switch on the TV. Better not have a TV then. Why buy one? If you go to somebody's house and the TV is never on, you may wonder why that guy is keeping the TV. Why does not give it to somebody? He's never watching it. So Ati Nikrishta Yogi पद्धति युक्ते भगवत स्वरूप त्यागे सति मनस का दशा से आदित्य अपेक्षा. So he says that after describing the lowest of the yogis, the most useless, most low class yogi, after describing that, he is describing what happens to his mind now when he is in such a state. So mukta iti evam यर्हि मनो निर्विषयं भवति तदा मुक्त आश्रयं च स्यात् ध्येय संबंध बिना तस्य धात्री अवस्था न संभवात्. So he says that when mind becomes free from any sense object, there is no object in it, there is no vishaya, then he also becomes mukta ashraya. He doesn't have any basis, any foundation on which to exist. So then what happens? Dheya sambandham bina tasya dhyatri avasthana sambhava. Now because there is nothing to meditate upon, there is no meditating on it. Now you cannot say that he is meditating. There is nothing to meditate on. न च पूर्वद व्यावहारिक शब्दादि विषय स्यात्. Someone says, well, he can come back to his original state and again start experiencing the sense objects of the material world. Why the mind has to be blank? Because we don't experience anything in this. Sometimes if you get into unconscious state and little bit conscious, you feel like mind has become blank, you don't see anything. So he says, yatas tatra viraktam. He says, no, there is no more experiencing the sense objects. Why? Because he is a virakta. He is totally renounced. Why is he renounced? Paramananda anubhavam. Because he is experiencing a state of ecstasy, being situated in his own self. Nacha paramanand rupameva punarapi vishayi kuryat. So he says, well, he will again start meditating on the wonderful, blissful form of the Lord. So he says, no, he will not do that. Why? Sankair viyukta ityatra sanai padena punarapi tado vinojniyatvad. Because it was said that slowly he extracts his mind from the form of the Lord, therefore he doesn't go back there. Therefore what happens? Nirvanam layam richati. Then his mind becomes dissolved. No mind meditation. Osho's favorite. Talks of no mind meditation. So then mind becomes dissolved. This is also the Buddhists, they also do that. Then one example is given to explain this. Yatha archi deepa kalika tailavartibhyam niyukta nirvati. He said, just as the wick, there is a lamp, so there are three things in a ghee lamp. There is oil, there is the wick, and then there is the flame. So he says that archi deepakalika tailavartibhyam yukta nivartete. If the flame is separated from the wick and the oil, then what will happen? Flame cannot exist for very long. It will be extinguished immediately. So that's what happens. Then it becomes extinguished. If the mind is without sense objects, then it gets dissolved. So many times people think that mind is nothing but thoughts or bundle of thoughts. No, it's not true. Mind is there, but without thought it has no meaning. अत्र अस्याम दशायाम पुरुष जीव मनोलय सति लिंग रूप आवरण भंगा अव्यवधानम शुद्धम आत्मानं प्रत्यगात्मानं एकम अन्वीक्षते. So now when the mind has become dissolved, then in this state Purusha, the Jiva, his covering in the form of subtle body is dissolved. Then what happens? Then without any obstruction, he is Shuddham Atmanam Pratyagatmanam, he sees his inner self without any this obstruction and vikshati. And tatascha na sansarti. And then he does not again deal with the material world. Why is that? Because pratinivritta guna prahavo dehadi upadhiyasya. All his upadhis, his identification with the subtle and gross body is removed. So when it is said that mind and these things are dissolved, it means that they are disconnected now. It is not really speaking that the elements are dissolved, otherwise how he is going to work. It will be described later on that he still exists in the world. He sees things, he hears sounds, but he does not connect to them anymore. He is totally oblivious of anything happening external. It's like a person who is highly intoxicated. Then he is not sensing what is happening in his body. He is not aware, he is not aware. Of course, in this state, this person is in total tamoguna. This yogi is now aware only of himself, herself, itself, whatever you want to say. And is not aware of anything else. Just that he is not aware. And because he is not aware, then it is as good as his mind does not exist. His ego does not exist. He is like an intoxicated person. So this is the state which he experiences. So Vallabhacharya makes one nice comment on this. He says that एवं आत्मज्ञानार्थं चर्मा मनसो वृत्तिरपेक्षिता तदभावे ब्रह्मात्मा अनुभवो न भवति. So according to him, there is, when this said that yatharshi, this lamp is extinguished, he said that this also is a type of vritti. And that is the vritti of Brahman. This is further explained in this commentary Bhagavatam. It's also interesting. It says Muktashrayam iti yarhi yada evam bhagavadanandanubhaven shabdadi vishayobhyo viraktam. So he says that when he becomes completely detached to any sense objects because of the experience of bliss of realizing the Lord, Svashraya Ahankar Vilayat Mukta Ashrayam, then he is absolutely free from any support because his ego etc. is dissolved. Ateva dhyatri dhyanusandhana bhavat. Therefore, he has no awareness of meditator and meditation, or the object of meditation. So it's very important that it's not that these things don't exist, but he has no anusandhana, no awareness in this. Nirvisyam chasan manah sasa anayasena nirvanam nirvayam. And when the mind becomes absolutely free from any sense object, then suddenly it attains nirvana or gets dissolved. So what does it really mean? It says Nana Vidha Vritti Ruptam Parityajya Parama Karan Brahma Karina Parinamate. Previously mind was changing all the time according to the sense objects. And now all these modifications have come to an end. So it becomes Brahmakar, take the shape of Brahman, which has no shape. So this is the Charama Vritti, this is the ultimate. And this is explained by an example. Tatra Drishtantamai yatha archi deep jwala sa yatha tailavarti ashnanti sashriya sa prakasa sati tailavarti apagami rashriyani prakasa sati. So you have a flame and it has its support from the oil and the wick. The flame is existing, being supported by oil and the wick, and therefore it is giving light. But now if you remove the wick and the oil, then it is without any support and there is no light anymore. So that is called nirvana. Swakaran mahabhut jyoti rumina parinamati. Then this flame, it transforms into the cause of the flame, which is the Mahajyoti. And atriyasyam dasayam purusha vyavadhanam dhyatri dhya vibhag sunyam ateve ekam akhandam anugatam atmanam ikshate. And the person sees oneself without any break. So this is a description of self-realization. This is how it is possible to self-realize. And from this you can understand that all these people who are talking about self-realization, then I don't know what they talk about. They basically realize something of Mahatattva and they confuse it in Brahman. Because Mahatattva is also like Brahman. Dasa Mahad Brahman Tasmin Garbhadadhami. Krishna is saying that this Mahatattva is my, it's also like Brahman is my yoni. So it is not possible, self-realization is not possible without taking help of Bhakti like this. Because you cannot get rid of these vrittis by any means. It's only possible like this. So I'll stop here if there is any question.
About this awareness. So this cannot be permanent.
What?
When the mind goes in this type of blank state.
Why?
According to what I understood, it can happen also while the yogi is still in his body. It can happen while the yogi is still in his body, in the physical body.
Yeah.
So then how can be permanent state?
Why?
So later he has to, otherwise he has to put the body.
Why he has to quit the body?
Because the body cannot be sustained.
Why it cannot be sustained? Somebody can feel him. The body is a machine. If the food is going inside, it will keep on functioning. As long as if the soul leaves the body, that is
He
another
becomes
thing.
completely dependent from somebody else.
Hmm?
He becomes completely dependent from, because he leaves this external.
Yeah, but he's still in the body. Therefore, body, as I said, it's a mechanical arrangement. It can function. It's like you have a car. you turn the engine on, and even you are sitting and you don't care for it, the engine will remain on as long as the fuel is there. If the fuel is finished, then of course it will stop. So like that, it's a machine. And the battery has current, and you turn it on, it will remain on. Of course, for some time. Everybody is alive for some time. Nobody is eternal in this moment.
Then the question is because he will not be able to maintain his body.
No, he cannot.
He cannot. That's why.
Somebody else has to take care of his body. He will not be able to care for himself. Because he will not feel hunger, thirst, any of these things. These things, somebody puts food in his mouth, the body can move and eat, but he is oblivious to all that. Just like a person who is intoxicated. So that is the Avadhuta platform. When described about Rishabdev, that he was lying down, he was even passing school, he was not knowing that. Because he is, of course, in case of Rishabdev, it is not Nirvikalpak Samadhi, it is Savikalpak. But same thing happens there also. You forget about anything external.
So that would hold
I
true.
have a question about, for example, if you have the experience to be in Buddhism Zen, and also in a spiritual life in India, like Krishna consciousness and this. Sometimes you have a different experience, because I have the experience to meditate with Buddhism Zen for 2 years, all the time. But I was thinking all the time, if they don't have God and they are thinking about mind and body and no Atma, it has a conflict of that, no? What do you think about that?
Yeah, it is conflicting because who is thinking? And who is involved in this meditation? You have to accept some basis.
You always have to focus on God and Atma. Because if you don't have God and Atma, it's nothing.
Yes. And that's why Buddhism philosophy is not accepted here in Bhagavatam.
I know. It's very hard.
Sometimes, as I understood, Nirvana is described as nothing, and Brahma is described as all. So in practical means, what is the difference between nothing and all?
No difference.
Just the name? It's just the name.
Nothing and all are same. What do you mean by nothing? Does that nothing have existence or non-existence? Usually we think nothing means something non-existential. But if it is non-existential, then what do you mean you attain it? How can you attain something which is non-existential? So if you actually think properly, then there is no difference. Means Nirvana or Brahman realization is same.
Just name.
Because what is Brahman is only existence. All pervading existence. But since it has no form, no qualities, then what can you say? It is like nothingness. So this nothingness also has existence.
Babaji, what you said before about the person who's intoxicated, he's just not aware or conscious of anything. The same could hold true for a person who's in a coma.
Yeah.
It's similar.
It's same. He also doesn't move. The only difference is when he is in coma, he doesn't move. He's just lying in one place. The guy who is intoxicated, he can move, he can also eat. He may not be even aware what he is eating. He We even speak and say things without really being conscious. Later on, when he comes out of the state, you ask him, oh, you said this, and he may not remember that. Did I say it? And you did like this. Oh, really?
So you can also refer to that as like an altered state of consciousness.
Yeah, it is
as
altered
well.
also. Samadhi is also altered state of consciousness.
It's not an altered state consciousness in the way they use that term in transpersonal psychology. Because in transpersonal psychology they use that in a very specific way to refer to a state of consciousness other than the waking, dreaming, or deep sleep,
I see.
which is a state of consciousness either attained through use of some form of narcotic, some sort of form of hallucinatory drug, or through some form of meditation that brings about an altered perception of the world. So that's specifically what they mean by altered state awareness. And in the case of a coma, there's no apparent awareness at all.
There's nothing. It's not really aware of anything.
It's death-like.
It's more like deep sleep.
I have a really this time I was thinking about. I have a conflict about that. All the time I am thinking about that. For example, I was reading the Bhagavad Gita and Krishna says, I am the only one God, you know. And the conflict me is that I listened all the time, you know, for Jesus, Baba, Sai Baba, this and that, I am the only one God, the only one God. So sometimes you get like, that you want to stay like, very, stop and say, so how do I deal with thousands of God, you know? I'm focusing in serve only which God I have to serve, you know what I mean?
I understand you, but why you think that those who are saying I am the only one and the other one is saying I am the only one, why do you think that they are different? You have to think that they are all one. Because God is only one. And if Krishna says I am the only one, and Jesus says I am the only one, and Sai Baba also says I am the only one, and all these only ones are one only.
Yeah. Yeah.
So then there is no conflict.
That's not the conflict, it's something that if I want to serve, you know, if I want to serve God in a...
Then you serve Krishna.
You know?
Because others will come and go.
Krishna consciousness.
Krishna is there all the time.
But is it not really a matter of seeing which is the most inclusive reality?
Yeah, that is another thing. That's why I'm saying that that's my first step.
Because this whole discussion, you know, of the yogi who withdraws his mind at the moment of realization, it's not really the flaw of the yogi at the moment of realization. It's the inbuilt limitation of the path.
Yes.
You know, that either the gyan or the yoga path, if it's directed towards either nirvana or it's directed towards Brahman, then it has that inbuilt limitation that at the time of realization, if such a moment ever comes about, it will necessarily have the inbuilt limitations that it will not be able to encompass Bhagavan. Because from the very outset, the sadhana was not able to encompass Bhagavan.
Yeah, so that's why before one takes to the practice, you have to analyze all this. It's not easy to figure this out, who is really the one Bhagavan. So that's why we need help of Shastra, scriptures like Bhagavatam, because they explain these things. Ultimately everything is Bhagavan, Vasudeva Sarvamiti, all this is Vasudeva. But it does not mean that everything is same or everything is equal. There are different levels of manifestation of Bhagavan. It's like when you say, suppose somebody says that I am a man. Now, not saying that I am the only man, but I say I am a man. He says I am a man. Then you think, what is this? He says he is a man, he says he is a man. What does it mean? So this does not mean that there is only just one man, and either I can be man or he can be man, and both cannot be man. So in the same way, there are different levels of manifestation of Bhagavan. And that's very nicely analyzed here in Bhagavatam. But there is one who is the topmost manifestation, and that is Krishna. And everybody else, whoever he may be, whether it is Sai Baba or Jesus or anyone else, because there are many. They are all manifestations of Bhagavan, but at a lower level. And they can take you up to a certain limit, as he is saying, that they have their limitations. So the Supreme, the unlimited, the topmost manifestation of reality is only Sri Krishna. So that's why I said that if you really want to serve God, then serve Krishna.
Because he's the...
And he is all inclusive.
Mm.
That's why he showed his universal form. In Bhagavad Gita, he showed his universal form, where he showed that everything is existing in him. So, and then he says that there is nothing above him. Matta parataram namnit kinchid asti dhananjaya. That there is nothing above me. But nobody else has said that. Even Sai Baba does not say that there is nothing above me. Jesus also did not say that there is nothing above me. He said above him is his Father. Even if he said he and Father are one, but Father is there. Now when you say he and his Father are one, then you have to figure out what does it mean. Either Father does not exist or he does not exist, or one has to merge into the other. How they can be one? Two things can never be one, unless one you are thinking as an illusion, or one is just another appearance of the other one. So if you say that, if you see a snake in the rope, and then I say that actually this snake is also rope. So what it means is that really speaking snake does not exist, it's only rope and you are mistaking it for snake. That's how they are one. So there is only one absolute reality. God cannot be 15 or 20. There is only one. But he manifests at different levels.
So the highest level is Krishna.
Highest level is Krishna. That's why he is called Krishna. The word Krishna means who is all inclusive. It means one who contains everything. This word is very appropriate. There is nothing beyond Krishna, nothing above Krishna, nothing like Krishna. If there is anything, it is all within him and lower than him. So that's what the word Krishna means. So if we have to worship, if we have to serve, then why settle for the least, lesser one? It takes the same effort to worship Sai Baba or Jesus or anyone else as Krishna, so why not Krishna? Because Jesus and Sai Baba, they are contained within Krishna. He is the all-inclusive Godhood.
Sai Baba and Jesus Christ have not parampara.
It doesn't matter whether they have parampara.
Krishna have parampara.
Babaji, when you say that this type of yogi makes an effort to kick out the love from the heart, means that
Because their path is like that. To begin with, they have understood it like that. It's not that suddenly he decides. See, these are processes. These are schools of philosophy.
So they
It's
start
not
like
something in somebody's imagination.
that.
So they have studied it, they have faith like that.
Yeah, what I
They
want to
have
ask.
understanding and they work according to it.
What I want to ask is that when the Lord manifests himself in the heart of somebody, it must be that this soul becomes attracted. This
No,
kind
you're
of,
not understanding the point.
I understood that part. That's
He has already decided that this is the path I want to follow.
needs to use
So
the
there is no
Lord.
question of attracted and not attracted.
Basically, they use the Lord only to.
That's what he was saying, that he's like a fisherman.
Yeah.
Because they don't conceive the form of God, or the
Superior.
God that manifests to them, as being ultimately real.
They don't, even if they consider it real, they don't consider it as superior to the impersonal feature. They think that Brahman is higher than.
The person which is higher than person.
Otherwise, who would like to do that?
Does it have to do with the nature of the person? Some people are.
No, there is no such thing as nature. Nature is all material. Nature has nothing to do with spirituality. Its body is made of prakriti. So what this has to do with God?
When they choose the path.
That is all because of the association. This has nothing to do with nature. Nature is material.
But when they choose the path, they
That
they
always
have
it happens depending on what kind of association you get.
some.
If you get association of impersonalists, you hear for them, they will put everything logically to you. And you become influenced by that. And develop Shraddha according to association.
So then they will never step back. Then we have achievements there.
It is also possible to step back if they can get association of a devotee. Once they attain Atyantik Mukti, intimate liberation of the body, and it's until the end.
And I asked about this nature thing because I have a friend who's also a god brother. He suddenly, he was a devotee, initiated everything, and he suddenly went to an impersonal path.
So
Maybe his association was through books, I don't know, but he was more like a dry person or whatever, I don't know.
No, it's not a dry person or wet person. You will not get a good devotee association.
Okay.
Because even dry person changes. You did not get any good association or good understanding of Bhakti. Just because somebody comes, takes Diksha and changes dress does not really mean that there is change inside.
Question. When we meditation, we must, our body must be full of relaxation. When we concentration, our mind towards Krishna, Holy Name, our body, if yoga tells that our body must be relaxation. Not moving hand, not moving body. But I feel it when I became listen Holy Name concentration, and my hand change up, and many is a hand moving, many part of the mind become moving. And I feel best meditation is not chant mantra, only speak and chant Hare Krishna. This is a kind of possible chant Hare Krishna without japa, unnecessary japa.
You can chant without japa, but that doesn't matter if you are chanting. You don't lose your concentration because of
the concentration, I feel that if I'm moving my fingers, my mind become active. If I chant only Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, I feel best concentration.
many chant like that.
Possible without it. Lord Chaitanya not use
So that use and not use